traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So, previewing Trump's sit-down with Chinese Communist Party dictator Xi Jinping on Thursday. The Wall Street Journal has this to say. The president has done more to counter China's ambitions than many of his supporters and almost all of his critics understand. Hardcore MAGA supporters often hold a quasi-isolationist worldview that misses the significance of regional competition in Europe, the Middle East, and Latin America in the great game of U.S. China relations. These observers see the Trump administration's Middle East and Venezuelan policies as distractions from the business of making America great again, but the destruction of Iran's bid for Middle Eastern hegemony boosts Trump's position vis-a-vis China. A definitive defeat of China and Russia's principal ally in the Western Hemisphere would similarly reverberate around the world. Both in the Middle East and in the Americas, Trump-era foreign policy aims to strengthen American dominance over fossil fuel markets. One can debate the means, but the objective is sound. Mr. Trump's many establishment critics can see no method in his madness, but when China and American leaders meet, Trump will have some solid accomplishments to bolster his position. Both Europe and Japan have turned a corner on defense spending, an accomplishment that has eluded every previous American president since the end of the Cold War. And out of the chaos of Trump's trade policies, last summer's agreements with Japan and South Korea and recent agreements with Southeast Asian partners seem to be entrenching an approach that, whatever its shortcomings, is acceptable to key American trading partners. While tempering expectations and understanding that some of this may be, sort of window dressing to keep up appearances so as to not rattle markets, Trump is not dealing from a position of weakness. And essentially, they're arguing the Chinese communists are hardly winning this square off with America. So let's not be overly pessimistic here, even though the situation remains problematic and complicated. For more on the topic, pleased to be joined by Gordon Chang. I'll give his intro and then I'll tell you he's in town tonight. Gordon Chang is the author of Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America, as well as the Great U.S. China Tech War. You can follow him on X at Gordon G. Chang, C-H-A-N-G. Gordon G. Chang is his X handle. And tonight, he is speaking at a fundraiser that Jeannie Ives and Breakthrough Ideas is hosting at Olympia Fields Country Club in Olympia Fields. I'm sure you can buy tickets at the door, breakthrough-ideas.com. You can also tickets there, breakthrough-ideas.com. And the fundraiser, all the proceeds from the fundraiser go to concerned citizens of Manteno, their legal fees in their ongoing lawsuit against Goshen, which is a Chinese communist-affiliated company under congressional investigation, and is being the attempted subsidization of Goshen to locate in Manteno by the state of Illinois under Governor Pritzker. So Pritzker and Xi are in business together, but the citizens of Manteno don't want any part of that business, and they don't want Goshen in their community. And by the way, Goshen tried a similar play in Michigan, and the deal up there is now dead. Governor Pritzker giving Goshen $536 million in taxpayer subsidies. So Gordon Chang at Olympia Fields tonight to talk about some of the topics we're going to discuss, but also specifically to help the cause of the residents of Manteno. Again, Breakthrough-Ideas, Jeannie Ives' organization, is the sponsor of this evening's festivities. Gordon Chang, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much, Dan.
Give us your frame on the tete-a-tete between Trump and Xi, what you would like to see Trump do, what is even possible for Trump to legitimately come away with here?
What President Trump is doing, it looks like he's negotiating a 1 year or so truce. And this means no additional 100% tariff. It also means the Chinese continue to sell rare earths to the United States and to buy American soybeans, and there will be a TikTok deal signed. Really, the important thing here is which country uses this 1 year better. And I think that's clearly the United States, because we have President Trump with all of these trade deals. He's isolating China. He's decreasing our dependence on China for rare earths with these arrangements with Australia, Japan, Malaysia, Thailand. And on the other side, China is doubling down on industrial policy, which is making China much more dependent on trade, which means it's much more dependent on the United States for its market. We represent about 34% of global consumer spending. China can't deal without us. So this is going to be a good year for America. In terms of where this deal is going afterwards, we just don't know. But the fundamental differences between China and the United States are so great that this truce probably is not going to last for more than a year.
And, despite the flowery rhetoric, which is Trump's want and Scott Bessent's want, too, you want to, as I said, sort of keep up appearances that we're, getting along, at least insofar as acting in the best interests of our countries respectively. And that means, coming to terms on trade so that we can not disrupt global supply chains too precipitously and so on and so forth. They want to sort of keep up this appearance, but I think what you're indicating is that it's strictly to keep up the appearance. Trump is under no delusions about who he's dealing with here.
Yeah, this is to buy time, and we need time in order to, for instance, get rare earths and also pharmaceuticals. We have a greater dependence on China for pharmaceuticals than we do on rare earths. So we need the time to do that. And when we think about China, last year they were behind the fentanyl gangs that resulted in 48,000 deaths in America. Those were not overdoses, Dan. Those were murders, because we know the Communist Party has been fully behind the fentanyl gangs. So we wouldn't have those deaths but for Chinese policy, and we've got to recognize that.
One other item that's a little bit below the fold, but EWTN asked President Trump about it, and it's something that's important to me, too, and I think a lot of Americans. You basically have the Chinese version of Solzhenitsyn in prison in China, and we want Jimmy Lai out of prison. And Trump, I think, would do well to raise this issue. And he told EWTN that he is going to raise the issue. I mean, he's been he's spoken out on behalf of Jimmy Lai before. What are the prospects of Trump negotiating a release of Jimmy Lai?
I think they're very good. And the reason is that China does not want Jimmy Lai to die in prison. He will be 78 soon. He's in obviously very poor health. Largely due to his imprisonment in Hong Kong. And really, we're going to see China try to offload him. So I think that we can get him out. And the important thing here is not just Jimmy Lai's future, but also the hundreds of Hong Kong dissidents who have been in prison, who are in prison right now. Once you get Jimmy out of prison, then it's possible to get the others out of prison as well. And President Trump, to his great credit, is doing a lot for that.
The region, you've got a new prime minister of Japan that is sort of being marketed as a Japanese version of the Iron Lady. We'll see. But she's speaking in sort of Japan first parlance and seems to be fairly warm to President Trump. You've seen the warm reception he's received in Malaysia, South Korea. That's nothing new. The work he's done between Cambodia and Thailand to negotiate peaceful coexistence between those two countries. What's happening in the region, do you think, in terms of isolating China within their own region. Is that a real thing, or do we still have a lot of work to do there?
Well, it is a real thing, and we have a lot of work to do because right now China is threatening, for instance, the Philippines with weekly belligerent acts, which one of them could easily spiral into a region-wide war. And so we have Japan working more closely with the United States. We have that really great diplomacy on Sunday with regard to Southeast Asia. We had the deals with Malaysia, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Thailand. These are really good developments for the U.S. The one development that isn't good is that we have a South Korean president who is very pro-China, very pro-North Korea, and who absolutely hates the United States. The fortunate thing is that the people of South Korea are increasingly in favor of America's relationship with South Korea, but its leadership right now is extremely leftist, and we have got a very difficult task keeping our relationship with South Korea.
So in addition to South Korea and obviously Russia, what relationship that China has most concerns you vis-a-vis America? I mean, for example, because of this this imbroglio between Trump and Canada over the ad they ran, and the ad that was run in Ontario during a World Series game, and then Trump raising tariffs on the baseline tariffs on Canadian products by another 10% in response. Not talking to PM Carney at this point, so Carney's over there talking to Xi. I mean, are there relationships like that concern you, or is there another one that maybe we're not attuned to that we should be?
Well, Venezuela. But, since you talked about Canada, this is really important because Carney, in response to what President Trump has been doing, could very well end up with a very close relationship with China. We do not need China on our northern border, and that's a very real possibility. And this is not good policy on the part of the Trump administration. We need our friends. We need a strong Canada, and we do not need a Canada that is closer to Beijing than it is to Washington.
What about Argentina with Milei's success in the legislative elections over the weekend, and the tightening relationship between Argentina and Trump, and also Milei's antipathy towards communists, just as a general rule, that helps a lot. Is that a key relationship, and is it time for Trump to, talk to Milei about, not selling to China and finding other markets for their ag products, for example?
Yes, but Milei is really important to the United States. Argentina broke what was called the pink wave, all of these countries voting in leftists, and Milei is the clear outlier on that. And actually, Milei, if he's successful in Argentina, can actually start a non-pink wave. And it's really important for the Trump administration for what it's been doing. So, kudos to the president for our relationship with Argentina, because he has really worked very hard to build those bonds. And that's really important for the United States, especially as President Trump pivots to the Western Hemisphere to make sure that our borders are safe.
Right, but then so what does he do vis-a-vis the relationship that Argentina has commercially with China?
Well, we're going to have to break that, and it's going to take some time because Argentina is not in a great condition right now. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, President Trump has done everything that it's possible that can be done with regard to Argentina. And Argentina, just by itself, is an important country in South America. But at this particular time, it's even more crucial.
You recently wrote about quote-unquote dark factories in China. What is your handle on the strength of the Chinese economy? But actually sort of the strengths and weaknesses, if you will.
Yeah, the strength is that they have their industrial powerhouse and they are well automated. What we're seeing right now, though, is a Chinese economy which is deepening into deflation. And deflation is an economy killer. We see this from even the official numbers that have come out. So, for instance, September was the 36th straight month of declines in the producer price index, which measures factory gate prices. There have been now 6 out of 9 months where the consumer price index is in negative territory. The Chinese economy is in very bad shape. And what makes it even worse is that Xi Jinping's policies are actually deepening the problems in China, pushing China further into deflation and basically making China more trade dependent. So really, the Chinese leadership is undermining China's ability to compete in the world.
So if China loses its ability to compete in the world, I mean, what do you think happens there? I mean, I hate to raise the prospect of this, but we're dealing with, a tyrant, and we understand, the history of tyrants in China. I mean, if things falter, does she set out on a purge of those not only within his party but in the country in general, something on the order of the Glorious Revolution?
Yes, well, what's happening right now is there's a lot of turmoil at the top of the Communist Party, and Xi Jinping is in a weakened position. So this is a very bad situation. China is now trying to export its way out of problems. They'll be able to do well for a year or so, but after that, the world's going to resist them. And it's being led by President Trump in resisting the Chinese. I've got to run by, unfortunately. But
Gordon Chang, he's the author of Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America and the Great U.S. China Tech War. Again, follow him on X at Gordon G. Chang. And by the way, that event tonight at Olympia Fields, where Gordon Chang is speaking, and the proceeds going to concerned citizens of Manteno in their fight against the Chinese Communist company Goshen locating a facility there. Get tickets at breakthrough-ideas.com. There are no tickets at the door, I am now told. So if you want to attend this fundraiser, 7 o'clock dinner tonight at Olympia Fields Country Club, breakthrough-ideas.com. And Gordon Chang joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Hi, Dan Proft here. Data shows that boys make up more than 1/3 of those exploited in the sex trade. However, there are virtually no services available to male victims and survivors of trafficking and exploitation. They are often overlooked, ignored, and left without support. For 35 years, Emmaus has been on the front lines of an issue most of us can hardly imagine, helping men and boys in Chicago escape the nightmare of human trafficking and rebuild their lives. On November 1st, you're invited to attend an unforgettable evening at the Emmaus 35th Anniversary Gala at Fisherman's Inn in Elburn, Illinois. Together, they'll celebrate faith, freedom, and restoration with a beautifully catered dinner, an inspiring program, and a silent auction, all to support the mission of rescuing and restoring survivors. This is your chance to do something that truly matters. Reserve your seat today, or if you can't attend, make a life-changing donation at streets.org. That's streets.org. Emmaus is restoring lives. Let's help them keep going.